The avoidant experiences intense longing for you that contradicts everything their defended presentation suggests about emotional detachment and independence, experiences burning, aching desire for your presence that persists across weeks or months or years after relationship ended, that intrudes into their daily awareness despite their attempts to suppress thoughts of you, that activates their body and their emotions in ways their defended psychology usually prevents. They think about you constantly with frequency that surprises and disturbs them, given their typical defended ability to deactivate and move on from previous partners. They miss you with intensity that feels overwhelming when it breaks through their defended barriers, reaching conscious awareness. They long for specific elements of connection with you, long for your understanding that made them feel known in unprecedented ways, long for your presence that provided emotional access and regulation they cannot generate independently, long for intimacy you created that allowed them to experience themselves more fully than defended isolation allows. This burning heart for you exists alongside their defended patterns that made relationship unsustainable, alongside their continued inability to sustain intimate relationship, alongside their maintenance of defensive structure that prevents them from building healthy partnership, even while they experience profound longing for exactly the partnership you offered. The burning is real, authentic emotional experience, not performance designed to manipulate you, not strategic expression calculated to restore relationship, not temporary crisis-driven activation that will fade once immediate trigger passes. The avoidant genuinely burns for you in ways that create suffering because burning remains unresolved. They cannot have you because their patterns destroyed relationship, cannot stop wanting you because you provided what their psychology desperately needs, cannot act on burning through genuine pursuit because vulnerability required for authentic pursuit terrifies defended structure, even while defended structure burns with longing for what vulnerability with you created. The burning particularly intensifies because you are unavailable rather than because you are available. The unavailability paradoxically increases their desire in ways that psychological research on avoidant attachment consistently demonstrates. Avoidants activate and pursue when partner is unavailable or leaving, yet deactivate and withdraw when partner is available and pursuing them. Your current unavailability removes the threat that your availability created, allows them to experience longing without having to manage the anxiety that receiving what they long for would generate, lets them burn for you safely, because burning remains fantasy rather than requiring vulnerable action toward actual reconnection. The burning would likely diminish if you became available again, would transform from intense longing into defended discomfort, as your availability activated their engulfment fears and their defenses against intimacy. Yet while you remain unavailable, while reconnection remains fantasy rather than threatening reality, they can burn for you with intensity their defenses prevent them experiencing toward available partners. The burning serves specific psychological functions beyond genuine feeling, serves to maintain you as focal point, preventing them from genuinely moving forward, serves to protect ego through positioning you as the one who got away rather than facing they were inadequate partner, serves to avoid intimacy with new partners through comparing everyone unfavorably to idealized memory of you their burning maintains. Yet recognizing defensive functions does not mean burning is not real. The burning is authentic, painful longing that coexists with defensive functions that longing serves. They genuinely burn for you, experiencing real emotional and physical activation when they think about you, while burning also serves to keep them stuck in defended patterns, preventing growth that genuine therapeutic work would require. The burning is both real feeling and defensive avoidance, both authentic longing for connection you represented and defended protection against vulnerability that connection would require if pursued authentically. The longing intensifies because your absence removes the threat your presence created. The avoidant experiences their most intense longing for you during your absence rather than during your presence because absence eliminates the specific threats that your availability created for their defended psychology. When you were present and available, when relationship was ongoing and you were pursuing them or expressing desire for deeper connection, your presence activated multiple defended fears that made engagement with you feel threatening, despite consciously wanting relationship with you. Your emotional availability threatened their defended emotional control. Your feelings and your emotional expression reminded them of their own suppressed emotions, creating anxiety about feelings breaking through defensive barriers. Your desire for intimacy threatened their defended autonomy. Your needs for closeness activated their engulfment fears, making them feel controlled or consumed by your expectations. Your ability to see beneath their defended presentation threatened their defensive structure. Your understanding meant they could not maintain false self that protected them from vulnerability, meant you witnessed wounded parts they learned were unacceptable. These threats operated largely outside conscious awareness. The avoidant did not think explicitly, "This person's emotional availability threatens my emotional control," but instead experienced vague anxiety, discomfort, overwhelm, or irritation when around you that they might have attributed to external stressors or to incompatibility, rather than recognizing feelings stemmed from defended response to intimacy you offered. The threats generated automatic defensive responses, withdrawal to restore distance, deactivation to suppress feelings your presence activated, criticism of you to create justification for distance, minimization of relationship to protect against vulnerable investment. These defensive responses operated to manage the threats your presence created, to restore defended comfortable distance when intimacy exceeded their tolerance, to protect defensive structure when you're seeing them threatened maintain defenses. Your absence eliminates all these threats, allowing the avoidant to experience longing, without the defended anxiety that longing would generate if you were available. Your emotional availability no longer threatens their control. Because you are not present expressing emotion, they can imagine connecting with you without having to manage your actual feelings or face their own feelings. Your emotions would activate. Your desire for intimacy no longer threatens their autonomy because you are not available requesting closeness. They can fantasize about intimacy without experiencing engulfment. Fears actual intimacy generates. Your ability to see them no longer threatens their defenses. Because you are not present perceiving beneath their presentation, they can remember being known without experiencing current vulnerability being seen creates. The absence transforms you from threatening present reality into safe distant fantasy, where they can experience desire for connection without experiencing anxiety connection creates. The removed threat particularly allows idealization, where memory selectively emphasizes positive aspects of relationship and connection with you, while minimizing negative aspects that made relationship difficult or uncomfortable for their defended psychology. They remember your understanding without remembering how exposing being understood felt. They recall your patience without recalling how guilty your patience made them feel about their inadequate reciprocation. They think about intimacy you created without thinking about how overwhelmed that intimacy made them feel when they were experiencing it. They focus on missing your presence without acknowledging that when you were present, they often wanted distance from your presence. This selective memory creates idealized version of you and of relationship that fuels intense longing, because idealized version contains only what they want, without containing what triggered their defenses when they actually had it. The safe distance absence creates also allows the avoidant to experience their suppressed feelings about you more fully than they could experience feelings when you were present. During relationship, their defenses actively suppress positive feelings to prevent vulnerable attachment. They could not let themselves feel how much you mattered, because mattering meant vulnerability to loss, could not acknowledge depth of their caring, because caring meant needing someone which defenses prohibit. Your absence paradoxically allows these suppressed feelings to surface, because feelings no longer carry the threat they carried when you were available. Feeling how much they miss you does not threaten to create vulnerable dependence, because you are not available to depend upon. Acknowledging how much you mattered does not threaten to create attachment, because attachment to unavailable person is safer than attachment to available person who might require vulnerable engagement. Recognizing depth of caring does not threaten defenses, because caring for absent person allows emotional experience without requiring vulnerable expression or reciprocal action. The intensified longing during absence also reflects the avoidant finally experiencing the loss they defended against experiencing while relationship was ending. During breakup or during period when relationship was deteriorating, their defenses likely minimized their feelings about losing you. They might have felt relief about escaping intimacy that overwhelmed them, might have deactivated quickly protecting themselves from grief about loss, might have rationalized ending through focusing on negative aspects or incompatibilities. These defensive responses prevented them from fully experiencing what losing you meant at the time loss was occurring. Yet with distance from immediate crisis, with safe remove from threat your availability created, defenses relax enough that they begin to experience the grief and loss they defended against during actual ending, begin to feel how much your absence affects them, begin to recognize what they lost, begin to experience emotions about ending that defenses suppressed when ending was occurring. Understanding that longing intensifies because absence removes threat allows recognition of cruel irony in avoidant psychology. They burn most intensely for you when you are unavailable, yet would likely deactivate if you became available again. The burning feels like evidence they genuinely want relationship with you, feels like authentic desire that should motivate authentic pursuit. Yet burning exists partly because you are unavailable, making burning safe fantasy rather than threatening reality. If you responded to their longing by becoming available, by offering reconnection, by being willing to try again, their burning would likely transform into defended anxiety as your availability recreated all the threats that your presence originally generated. The intense longing would diminish, replaced by familiar defended discomfort, withdrawal, deactivation, as your availability activated their engulfment fears and their defended resistance to intimacy. The burning is real, yet burning is safer than having. Fantasy is more comfortable than reality. Longing for unavailable you is more tolerable than engaging with available you, who would require vulnerable, reciprocal, intimate engagement. Their defenses continue to resist despite burning. That suggests they desperately want exactly the engagement defenses prevent them sustaining. They're romanticizing the relationship their patterns prevented from thriving. The avoidant experiences burning heart for you, accompanied by romanticized memories of relationship that selectively emphasize moments of connection and positive experiences while systematically minimizing or erasing their defended patterns that made relationship unsustainable and that caused significant harm to you throughout partnership. The romanticized narrative focuses on highlights, moments when they felt understood by you in unprecedented ways, times when intimacy felt good rather than threatening, experiences of connection that allowed them to feel more whole and alive than defended isolation typically allows. They remember how you made them feel known, how your presence provided emotional access they cannot achieve independently, how relationship with you represented their closest experience of intimacy and authentic connection despite their defended limitations, making that intimacy sporadic and inconsistent. This romanticized focus serves specific psychological function of allowing them to burn for idealized relationship rather than having to face actual relationship their patterns created. Actual relationship with you included their frequent withdrawal that created pain and confusion for you, included their emotional unavailability that left your needs unmet, included their inconsistency that made you question relationship status and their investment, included their defended minimization of your significance that made you feel unimportant, despite their current burning suggesting you were profoundly important. Actual relationship included your suffering, included your hurt when they withdrew without explanation, your frustration with patterns you could not change through your understanding and patience, your grief about unmet needs and about potential relationship never became due to their defended limitations. Actual relationship ended because patterns made it unsustainable. Ended because you could no longer tolerate treatment that fell below acceptable standards, or because their patterns drove you away despite your exceptional tolerance, or because they rejected you when intimacy exceeded their defended capacity. The romanticization erases or minimizes these difficult realities, allowing them to focus on idealized version, where relationship was near-perfect partnership, destroyed by unfortunate circumstances, or bad timing, rather than facing relationship, was dysfunctional dynamic their patterns created that caused legitimate harm, requiring your eventual self-protective departure. They remember your understanding without remembering how they took advantage of that understanding through continuing patterns you understood. Rather than changing patterns, your understanding should have made safe to address. They recall intimacy without recalling how they destroyed intimacy through withdrawal whenever closeness exceeded comfortable defended limits. They think about connection without thinking about how their patterns prevented connection from being sustained or reliable. They focus on what relationship could have been without acknowledging their defended limitations were why relationship never became what it could have been. The romanticization particularly operates through comparison, where current life or current relationship attempts compare unfavorably to idealized memory of relationship with you. Current life feels empty or meaningless compared to remembered connection with you. Comparison erases that life during relationship also included defended emptiness between moments of connection, that your presence provided relief from emptiness rather than eliminating emptiness. Their defended structure creates regardless of partner. Current relationship attempts feel unsatisfying compared to romanticized relationship with you. Comparison ignores that relationship with you was also unsatisfying in crucial ways, including their inability to reciprocate adequately, their patterns that prevented relationship stability, their defended limitations that left your needs chronically unmet. Current partners fall short compared to idealized you. Comparison forgets that you also experienced their defended patterns as inadequate partnership, that you also eventually left because relationship became intolerable despite your exceptional qualities. The romanticization also manifests through selective memory about ending, where they recall loss without recalling their responsibility for creating conditions that made ending necessary. They remember pain of losing you, focusing on how much your absence affects them. They recall that relationship ended, focusing on missing what they lost. Yet romanticized narrative minimizes that their patterns created the unsustainable dynamic, that their defended limitations prevented them from meeting your needs, that their inability to reciprocate adequately made your departure necessary self-protection rather than premature abandonment. The romanticization allows them to position themselves as person grieving lost love rather than as person whose defended inadequacy destroyed valuable relationship. Positioning that protects ego while preventing accountability that facing their role honestly would require. The romanticized burning serves defensive function of maintaining focus on external loss, on losing you, on unfortunate circumstances, on bad timing, rather than requiring internal examination of defended patterns that created loss. If they faced actual relationship honestly, including how their patterns harmed you and made relationship unsustainable, this facing would demand examining whether patterns serve them or cost them, would require considering therapeutic work to address patterns, would necessitate accountability for harm patterns caused. Romanticizing allows them to avoid this difficult internal work by keeping focus on external, on missing you, on hoping circumstances might align differently in future, on burning for idealized relationship that never actually existed in form. They currently remember it existing. The burning for romanticized version protects them from having to face. They need fundamental change to have relationship they claim to want. Understanding that they romanticize relationship, their patterns prevented from thriving, allows recognition that burning reflects idealized fantasy rather than accurate memory of actual relationship dynamic. They burn for version of relationship that emphasizes your exceptional qualities and moments of genuine connection while erasing their defended patterns and your suffering those patterns created. They long for partnership that existed only in highlight moments rather than as sustainable daily reality. They miss idealized you who provided understanding and emotional access without remembering actual you who also needed understanding and emotional reciprocation they could not provide. The burning is genuine feeling about fantasy rather than genuine feeling about reality. They authentically long for idealized relationship, while that longing specifically depends on romanticization that erases how their defended patterns made actual relationship painful and unsustainable for you, how their limitations prevented relationship from thriving, despite your exceptional efforts, how their inadequacy rather than external circumstances or timing was fundamental reason. Relationship could not continue without causing you continued harm. Their romanticized burning conveniently forgets while focusing exclusively on their current pain about loss. The burning won't translate to change capacity, only to continued patterns with new people. The avoidant experiences intense burning for you that feels significant and meaningful, feels like evidence of profound caring, feels like recognition of your value they failed to appreciate adequately while you were available, feels like emotional activation that should motivate them toward growth or toward genuine effort to address patterns that cost them relationship with you. The burning creates suffering that theoretically could serve as powerful motivation for therapeutic work. Suffering that reveals their patterns cost them something they deeply valued. Suffering that demonstrates defended structure prevents them from having what they genuinely want. Suffering that might inspire commitment to changing patterns rather than accepting continued loss of valuable relationships to unchanged defended limitations. The burning, combined with recognition of what they lost, seems like optimal conditions for change motivation. Seems like crisis that could finally generate willingness to engage difficult therapeutic work, addressing defensive structure. Yet the burning almost never translates into genuine change capacity through therapeutic work addressing defended patterns. The burning remains emotional experience, painful longing, intense missing, profound regret about loss, without transforming into action toward developing different relational capacities. They burn for you, yet they do not engage trauma-informed therapy to address attachment wounds creating defended patterns. They suffer about losing you, yet they do not do internal work, examining their defenses and developing insight about how patterns harm themselves and others. They recognize their patterns cost them valuable relationship, yet they do not practice vulnerability or work to expand their tolerance for intimacy. They long for connection you provided, yet they do not develop their own emotional awareness and regulation capacity that would reduce dependence on partner for emotional access. The failure to translate burning into therapeutic work stems from multiple defended barriers that prevent motivation from becoming action. The burning itself is passive experience, feeling emotion about loss, while change requires active, sustained effort over months and years. Feeling badly about patterns is not equivalent to doing difficult work of restructuring those patterns through therapy. The burning also exists alongside continued defended resistance to vulnerability that therapeutic work requires. They can burn for you while maintaining defended barriers against examining wounds that created patterns, while resisting vulnerable exploration of childhood experiences that taught them intimacy is dangerous, while avoiding the emotional exposure that healing attachment wounds necessitates. They can suffer about consequences of patterns while remaining completely unwilling to engage the vulnerable internal work that addressing patterns would demand. The burning without change capacity manifests through them repeating identical patterns with new partners, despite painful burning about losing you to those same patterns. They pursue new relationship drawn by initial attraction and hope this time will be different. Initial period includes activation where they engage and pursue creating impression they are invested and available. Yet as intimacy develops, as new partner expresses needs for emotional availability and consistent presence, their familiar defended patterns reassert. They withdraw when closeness exceeds tolerance. They deactivate when emotions threaten their control. They create distance when intimacy activates engulfment fears. They demonstrate same emotional unavailability and inconsistency that destroyed relationship with you. New partner experiences same pain and confusion you experienced. New relationship becomes unsustainable for same reasons relationship with you became unsustainable. They lose another valuable person to unchanged patterns while continuing to burn for you as person. They lost to patterns they continue repeating with others. The burning for you specifically coexists with inability to sustain relationship with new people who resemble you or who trigger similar dynamics. They seek partners similar to you hoping to recreate what they lost. Seek understanding, patient, emotionally intelligent partners who might provide what you provided. Yet when they find partners resembling you, those partners trigger same defended responses you triggered. Understanding feels exposing, activating withdrawal. Patience highlights inadequacy, creating guilt. Emotional intelligence perceives beneath defenses, generating defended resistance. They cannot sustain relationship with new partners who resemble you, despite burning for you because resemblance triggers same patterns, because their defensive structure remains unchanged, regardless of how much they burn for relationship with person. Their patterns prevented them sustaining. The burning creates suffering about losing you, yet does not create capacity to sustain relationship with anyone like you. Without therapeutic work, they refuse to engage. The continued patterns with new people while burning for you reveal that burning serves defensive function of maintaining focus on specific loss of you rather than examining general pattern of losing people to defended limitations. If they face that they lose valuable relationships repeatedly due to patterns rather than facing that they lost specific person you are due to circumstances, this recognition would demand addressing patterns that create repeated losses. Burning for you specifically allows them to avoid this pattern recognition, allows them to believe problem was losing specific irreplaceable you, rather than recognizing problem is their defended incapacity to sustain intimate relationship with any valuable partner, regardless of that partner's specific qualities. Burning keeps them focused on what they lost, focused on you, on idealized relationship, on specific pain about your absence, rather than examining why they lose people, what patterns create losses, what internal work would prevent future similar losses. Understanding that burning will not translate to changed capacity allows recognition that their intense longing is genuine feeling that coexists with complete unwillingness to do work that would address patterns. They authentically burn for you. The longing is real emotional experience rather than performance. Yet authentic longing does not indicate readiness for change, does not demonstrate commitment to therapeutic work, does not mean they have developed insight or capacity that would make reconnection viable. They can burn intensely while remaining exactly the same defended person whose patterns destroyed relationship. They can long profoundly while maintaining complete resistance to vulnerability healing would require. They can suffer about loss while continuing to create similar losses with new people through unchanged patterns. The burning serves their emotional processing, allows them to grieve what they lost, maintains you as important presence in their psychological landscape, provides explanation for their continued relational struggles through focusing on losing irreplaceable you. Yet burning does not serve your well-being or potential for healthy relationship with them. If you returned based on their burning, based on belief that intense longing indicates changed capacity, you would discover burning existed safely only while you were unavailable. Your availability would likely recreate defended anxiety and familiar patterns. You would find they still cannot sustain intimacy despite burning for it, still withdraw despite longing for closeness, still demonstrate same defended limitations despite suffering those limitations cost them relationship with you. The burning is real but meaningless for potential relationship, because burning without therapeutic work changing, defended capacity simply means they feel intensely about what they remain incapable of sustaining through vulnerable reciprocal engagement. Their defenses continue preventing despite authentic painful longing for exactly the intimate partnership those defenses make impossible for them to maintain.